Good evening and welcome to Sing of Strings, the tale of a violin. Now let's come to the instruments that bring forth the songs of the amazing devil. I don't mean the players and their voices in this instance. I mean the physical tools known as musical instruments. First and foremost, the violin. Why foremost, I must presume you ask. Have you ever heard that violins have a timbre closest to human voice of any instrument, except perhaps cello, depending on the voice and the violin, of course. It's why it was so easy back in the day to convince people that violin strings were made of catgut, like a homunculus or a witch's familiar, instead of the more mundane sheep intestines they were actually made of. Connective tissue is very resilient. It's why the devil is frequently depicted playing fiddle, this almost human voice. And we are speaking of the amazing devil, are we not? Played right, a violin can sound like the sighs of a soul, eerie and emotional and plaintive, definitely otherworldly, ethereal, coming from the idea that all matter is permeated with a substance known as ether. How should I explain ether? It's an old idea. The closest we have now is our understanding of how the Higgs boson interacts with the fabric of reality to create gravity as we know it. But if you believe that you understand gravity fully, you probably don't. If you believe you can feel it though, then you probably have functional senses. That is how ethereal works. Felt more than understood. Violins have attracted attention of many sorts since their invention, or should I say, since their evolution from earlier forms. There have been many physicists who've studied the voice of the violin, its vibration and tension, its overtones and fundaments, how the strings move when bowed and plucked. The resonant cavity of a violin creates something called Chladni patterns within the wood. If you coated it with dust, you could watch the vibration propagate into static patterns through the elasticity of grain, making all the tiny particles danced into the correct shapes for the pitch of the note, pushed by the unseen forces of the air itself, like the ashes of hearts made corporeal, like tony folk dances in curving lines, pushed this way and that at the behest of the melody. Did you know that when a note's overtone harmonics pull it apart into unstable chaos, it's known as a wolf note? Evocative, don't you think? Especially for this violin. Run, dear heart, run, indeed. For the bridge of this violin, the thing that carries the strings' resonance into the body of the violin, it's carved of deer bone. From a red deer, I believe. But don't ask me how it was done. The tools for that sort of bone work make me shudder to think of. So I haven't even looked close enough to see if it's femur or antler. But we were talking about singing and strings and souls. Oh wait, that wasn't really a diversion, was it? The violin in question is of an unusual make in other ways too. Carved in the lean years of the 1930s, in the north of England. Any further north or higher and colder, and you would be treading the highlands. carved out of local wood and hope and quiet fears, by a man who had carved many such before, in better times, times of more light and warmth. This one was carved in a harsh winter, the wood stiff and unwilling to be shaped unless bathed in the light and warmth of a fire. Macabre, in a way, to carve the bones of trees like that by the burning light of others. No Norway maple or ebony for this violin. Nothing in it was exotic to the Isles. This one is blackthorn and dog oak, shaped well, polished deep. The waving grain on the body of a violin is known as the flame. This one's flame will show you things, if you know how to look through the polish just so, and listen to the static potential for vibrato and squeal, if you can watch its voice bring pictures to life. One of the blackthorn pegs broke once. A hidden knurl in the grain, one that didn't last the test of time and song. A replacement was carved by the contemporary player, out of yew. It's believed this choice was for the pun of it. Yew for a yew string. But yew is also the wood of midwinter. Blackthorn, the wood of Samhain. This violin's bones know the cold and the dark more than any other I've seen, more than most of its players have seen. Most. The original bow was strung with white horsehair, which is a powerful talisman for passage to turn a knock, I'll have you know. A talisman it played as one with for more than 80 years, through countless songs, countless melodies and lyrics, countless transports of hearts from this realm to another one that's distant and silent as tears on a cheek. Time enough to build opinions upon the world, this world and that. Time enough to feel the damp and the light, the darkness and bright, feel the cling of fungus try to break through the polish, failing over and over. Merely more dust to dance in those unseen internal places, in the unbreathing lungs of the violin's body. This violin knows things that I don't hear too much of. It does not get played with a bow of white horse hair, not anymore, not usually. I have not inquired too deeply about the current bow, lest I become an accomplice, you see. For there are whispers of sharp knives and the crowning glories of drowned souls, locks of lost lovers, hairs of animals that have not tread the earth for an age, the eyelashes of gods and the toe hairs of devils, the remains of the fishing line that pulled a mermaid to shore, and the tough fibers from lava grown in a ship's graveyard. Enough to make your hair stand on end. Whispers like that. Don't you find it deliciously dark that we make a violin sing by rubbing the dried ichor of one tree against the lacquered bones of another? Rosin is what I speak of. Rosin can come from a number of trees. You'd have to smell this one to know. know for sure which tree bled this rosin. Add in the catgut strings and the horsehair bow, and really a violin is quite the Frankenstein's orchestra. I posit that there's no better instrument to accompany you, should you wish to live a Mary Shelley style of existence. Well, I've spoken of the body and the bridge, the rosin and the bow, the peg and the neck, the polished glow. One last piece that deserves mention, I believe. One last new addition, the strings. The original sheepgut strings were replaced and replaced, played so long and to so many purposes that human sweat is just part of the polish. The rosin worn into the cracks, and those strings are edged into the voice of the violin, as it is now, like footprints in the wood. But they are gone. These days, the strings are of iron alloy, metal core and binding. Violin now does as it's bid, by the tension held in ferrous fetters. Mostly, it doesn't always do as bid, but that is another tale, and we will have to sing of strings another time. I bid you a good night and farewell, dear heart.